What if I told you that Carl Jung discovered the psychological mechanism that determines whether life supports you or sabotages you? Not through mystical thinking or positive affirmations, but through understanding how your unconscious mind literally shapes what shows up in your reality. Jung called it the reality-producing function of the psyche. Your mind isn't just interpreting events, it's magnetically drawing specific experiences, people, and opportunities based on your psychological state. Change the state, change what you attract, but not in the way you think. I'm about to show you Jung's 5-stage process for training your mind to become a magnet for what he called meaningful abundance. Not just material success, but synchronicities, opportunities, and connections that align perfectly with your true path. This isn't manifestation, it's psychological alignment, and it works through mechanisms Jung spent his lifetime mapping. Here's the part that will shock you. You're already attracting everything in your life right now. The question is whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously. Here's what nobody understands about attraction. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are, psychologically. And most people are walking contradictions. Consciously, you want success, love, abundance. But unconsciously, you might be programmed for failure, abandonment, scarcity. And guess which program is stronger? The unconscious wins every time. It's running 95% of your life, while your conscious desires get the remaining 5%. Jung discovered this through studying thousands of cases where people kept attracting the same situations despite desperately wanting different outcomes. The woman who kept attracting unavailable partners, the man who kept creating financial crisis right before breakthrough, the talented person who kept sabotaging opportunities. They weren't unlucky or cursed. Their unconscious was magnetizing exactly what it was programmed to attract, usually the opposite of what they consciously wanted. Their shadow material, complexes, and unconscious beliefs were creating a psychological frequency that drew matching experiences. Think about your own patterns. What keeps showing up in your life that you claim you don't want? Those recurring themes aren't random. They're your unconscious mind's calling cards, showing you exactly what psychological material is creating your reality. But here's Jung's breakthrough. Once you understand how your psyche creates your reality, you can reprogram it, not through force or fake positivity, but through psychological alignment, getting your conscious and unconscious minds working together instead of against each other. When that alignment happens, what Jung observed was almost miraculous. People suddenly attracted opportunities they had been repelling for years. Synchronicities multiplied exponentially. The right people appeared at perfect moments. Life stopped feeling like resistance and started feeling like flow. The question is, how do you create this alignment? Jung's first principle will change how you see everything. What you reject in yourself, you attract in your life. Your shadow, all those disowned parts, doesn't disappear. It becomes a magnet drawing experiences that force you to face what you've rejected. Reject your anger, you'll attract situations that make you furious. Disown your neediness, you'll magnetize people who trigger your dependencies. Deny your power, you'll attract circumstances that demand you claim it. Your shadow is like a psychological GPS, constantly routing you toward what you're avoiding. This isn't punishment, it's integration trying to happen. Your psyche is whole, and it will keep attracting experiences that push you toward wholeness, whether you like it or not. The rejected parts are trying to come home, and they'll use your external reality as the stage for their return. Jung saw this pattern everywhere. The person who couldn't stand selfish people kept attracting them because they would completely disowned their own healthy selfishness. The individual who hated weak people kept encountering them because they'd rejected their own vulnerability. The shadow was magnetically drawing its own reflection. But here's the breakthrough. When you integrate your shadow, you stop attracting its negative manifestations and start attracting its gifts. The person who integrates their selfishness starts attracting opportunities for healthy self-prioritization. The one who embraces their weakness attracts situations where vulnerability becomes strength. One of Jung's patients discovered this dramatically. She kept attracting financial crisis despite working constantly. Through shadow work, she discovered she'd completely rejected rest, pleasure, and receiving, labeled them as lazy and undeserving. Her shadow was creating financial crisis to force her to stop, to receive help, to experience what she'd rejected. When she consciously integrated these shadow aspects, started taking breaks, accepting support, allowing pleasure, her financial situation transformed, not through working harder, but through becoming whole. She stopped repelling abundance by integrating the parts of herself she deemed unworthy of it. This is how you train your mind to attract blessings. You stop rejecting parts of yourself. Every rejected aspect becomes a repelling force. Every integrated aspect becomes a magnetic attractor. The more whole you become internally, the more wholeness you attract externally. Your shadow isn't sabotaging you, it's trying to complete you, and it will use your entire external reality as leverage to make that happen. Jung discovered something that sounds mystical, but is psychologically precise. You can consciously activate archetypal energies that attract corresponding experiences. Archetypes aren't just symbols, they're psychological magnets that draw specific realities. Think of archetypes as psychological software programs in the collective unconscious. The warrior archetype attracts challenges and victories. The lover attracts connection and beauty. The sage attracts wisdom and students. The creator attracts inspiration and resources. When you activate an archetype within yourself, you start attracting its external manifestations. But here's what most people don't understand. You're already channeling archetypes unconsciously. The question is whether you're channeling the ones that serve you. Many people are unconsciously stuck in the victim archetype, the martyr, the orphan, and wondering why they keep attracting scenarios that confirm these roles. Jung discovered you can consciously choose which archetypes to activate, not by pretending or acting, but by genuinely connecting with these energies within yourself. Every archetype exists in your psyche as potential. You just need to give it permission to emerge. Here's how Jung approached this. Identify the archetype that holds what you want to attract. Want to attract creative opportunities. Activate the creator-artist archetype. Want to attract leadership positions. Activate the king or queen archetype. Want to attract healing connections. Activate the healer archetype. But activation isn't imagination, it's embodiment. You don't visualize being a creator, you create. You don't pretend to be a leader, you lead. You don't imagine being a healer, you heal. Even in small ways, even imperfectly, you begin embodying the archetype, and it begins attracting its reality. Jung himself activated the wise old man archetype, and it attracted students from around the world. He didn't try to attract them. They were magnetized by the archetypal energy he was embodying. The archetype created the attraction. One of Jung's analysands, a woman stuck in the victim archetype, learned to consciously activate the warrior. She didn't just think about it. She took martial arts, set firm boundaries, fought for causes she believed in. As she embodied the warrior, her entire reality shifted. She stopped attracting predators and started attracting allies. She stopped finding problems and started finding battles worth fighting. The key is authenticity. You can't fake archetypal activation. The psyche knows the difference between genuine embodiment and performance. When you truly connect with an archetypal energy, feel it, live it, breathe it, reality reorganizes around that energy. Which archetypes are you unconsciously channeling right now? Which ones would magnetize the blessings you seek? You have access to all of them. The choice is whether to activate them consciously or remain at the mercy of whatever archetypes your unconscious defaults to. Jung's concept of synchronicity reveals the ultimate blessing attraction mechanism. When your inner and outer worlds align, meaningful coincidences multiply exponentially. You don't create synchronicities. You become available to them. Synchronicities are always happening. Right now, the perfect person, opportunity, or resource for your next step exists. But if you're psychologically misaligned, conscious mind wanting one thing, unconscious wanting another, you're energetically invisible to these synchronicities. They can't find you because you're not psychologically where you need to be to receive them. Jung discovered that synchronicities follow psychological coherence. When your conscious goals align with your unconscious drives, when your shadow is integrated, when you're living from your authentic self rather than your ego, synchronicities explode. Doors open that were always there but invisible. People appear who were always around but unnoticed. Opportunities manifest that were always available but inaccessible. This isn't magic, it's psychological physics. Your aligned psyche creates a coherent frequency that attracts corresponding experiences. It's like tuning a radio. When you hit the exact frequency, suddenly the static becomes clear signal. The music was always there. You just weren't tuned to receive it. Jung documented hundreds of synchronicities in his own life, and they all followed the same pattern. They occurred when he was psychologically aligned with his true path, when he was forcing, controlling, or resisting his unconscious. Synchronicities dried up. When he was flowing, accepting, and following his inner guidance, they multiplied. Here's how to become a synchronicity generator. First, stop forcing outcomes. Forced intention creates psychological static that blocks synchronicity. Instead, hold clear intention with open hands. Know what you want, but not how it must come. Second, follow your psychological resonance. When something feels irrationally right, follow it. When something feels subtly off, avoid it. Your unconscious recognizes synchronistic opportunities before your conscious mind understands them. Third, act on synchronicities immediately. When a meaningful coincidence occurs, respond. Call the person who randomly came to mind. Read the book that fell off the shelf. Go to the event you accidentally heard about. Synchronicities are invitations that expire if not accepted. One of Jung's patients, a scientist stuck in his research, started tracking synchronicities. Within weeks of aligning with his authentic direction rather than forced ambition, 3 separate coincidences led him to exactly the collaborator he needed. The person had been in his field for years, but they'd been psychologically invisible to each other until alignment made them findable. This is the secret. You don't chase blessings. You become psychologically findable by them. When your inner state coheres, outer opportunities magnetize. The synchronicities that seem like miracles are actually just psychological alignment making visible what was always there. Here's Jung's deepest insight about attracting blessings. Your complexes, those unconscious emotional patterns, are secretly running your attraction mechanism. Until you transform them, you'll keep magnetizing the same painful patterns, disguised as different people and situations. A complex is like a psychological magnet with very specific attraction patterns. The abandonment complex attracts abandoners. The unworthiness complex attracts rejection. The betrayal complex attracts betrayers. Not consciously, unconsciously. The complex recognizes its match and creates irresistible attraction, usually disguised as chemistry or fate. Jung discovered this through observing how people with specific complexes kept attracting identical relationship dynamics with completely different people. The faces changed, but the pattern remained. They weren't choosing badly. Their complexes were choosing automatically. But here's the revolutionary part. When you transform a complex, you don't just stop attracting the negative pattern, you start attracting its opposite. The abandonment complex, once healed, attracts deep commitment. The unworthiness complex, once transformed, attracts recognition and value. The betrayal complex, once integrated, attracts trustworthy allies. The complex doesn't disappear. It transforms from a wound into a gift. It becomes a sensitivity that recognizes its positive opposite. The person who's healed abandonment can instantly recognize secure attachment. The one who's transformed unworthiness immediately spots genuine appreciation. Jung's method for complex transformation is precise. First, identify your core complex by noticing what you keep attracting. Second, trace it to its origin, usually a childhood experience where you made a decision about reality. Third, dialogue with the complex, understanding its positive intention, protection, usually. Fourth, give it a new job that serves rather than sabotages. One of Jung's patients had a severe poverty complex, kept attracting financial loss no matter how hard he worked. Through analysis, they traced it to a childhood message that having money meant losing love. His father left when the family became successful. The complex was trying to protect him from abandonment by keeping him poor. Once he understood this, he could dialogue with the complex, thank it for trying to protect him, and give it a new job, attracting abundance that deepens rather than threatens connection. Within months, he attracted business partnerships that were both profitable and personally meaningful. The complex that had been repelling money became a magnet for conscious wealth. Same psychological energy, transformed direction. Your complexes are currently determining what you attract. The question is whether they're working for you or against you. When transformed, they become your most powerful attractors of blessings, because they know exactly what you need to heal and exactly what would represent that healing. Jung's ultimate discovery about attraction. The closer you get to your authentic self, capital S, the more powerfully you magnetize everything meant for your path. This isn't about becoming better. It's about becoming real. The self, in Jung's terminology, isn't your ego or personality. It's your deepest essence, your psychological DNA, the you that existed before conditioning and will exist after all masks fall away. When you live from this self rather than from ego, you become magnetically aligned with your destiny. Jung called this individuation, becoming who you truly are rather than who you think you should be. And he discovered something remarkable. Individuating people attract completely different experiences than those living from persona or ego. They magnetize opportunities perfectly suited to their authentic path, relationships that recognize their true nature, and resources aligned with their genuine purpose. This isn't because the universe rewards authenticity, though it might. It's because psychological authenticity creates energetic coherence. When you're being fully yourself, you broadcast a clear signal that attracts what's meant for you and repels what isn't. When you're being false, your signal is scrambled, attracting random static rather than clear connection. Jung observed this in his own life. The more he individuated, the more he became uniquely Jung rather than trying to be Freud's successor or academia's darling. The more his true work magnetized to him. Students, insights, opportunities that were perfectly suited to his authentic path appeared as he became more himself. But here's what's crucial. Self-realization isn't about improvement. It's about acceptance. You don't become yourself by adding qualities you lack. You become yourself by accepting everything you already are. Shadows, complexes, wounds, gifts, all of it integrated into wholeness. The person trying to be perfect repels. Blessings meant for their imperfection. The one pretending strength repels gifts meant for their vulnerability. The individual performing happiness repels joy meant for their sadness. Only when you're real can reality meet you accurately. One of Jung's patients, a woman who'd spent years trying to be the perfect spiritual person, finally collapsed into being exactly who she was: flawed, angry, sensual, brilliant, broken, whole. The moment she stopped trying to be good and started being real, her life transformed. She attracted a partner who loved her complexity, not her perfection. Work that used her wounds as wisdom. Friends who met her depth, not her persona. Everything she'd been seeking while being false appeared when she became real. This is the ultimate blessing magnetism. Being so authentically yourself that only what's meant for you can find you. Your false self attracts false blessings. Things that seem good but don't fit. Your true self attracts true blessings. Things that might not look perfect but fit perfectly. Let me synthesize Jung's complete system for training your mind to attract unlimited blessings. You integrate your shadow, transforming repelling forces into magnetic wholeness. You activate archetypes that embody what you want to attract. You align psychologically to become a synchronicity generator. You transform complexes from wound magnets into blessing attractors. You individuate toward your authentic self, magnetizing your true path. This isn't about positive thinking, visualization, or pretending. It's about psychological alignment, getting every part of your psyche working together instead of against itself. When that happens, you don't have to chase blessings. They find you. Your unconscious is already programmed to attract everything you need for your psychological development. The problem is, your conscious mind usually fights this programming, wanting what it thinks you should have, rather than what you actually need. When you align conscious and unconscious, when you integrate rather than reject, when you become whole rather than perfect, that's when unlimited blessings become possible. Not unlimited in quantity, but unlimited in quality. Perfect for your path. Exactly what you need. Precisely when you need it. Here's what changes everything. You're already attracting perfectly. Right now, your life is showing you exactly what your psychological state is magnetizing. If you don't like what you're attracting, don't try to change your life. Change your psyche. Jung proved that outer reality is largely a projection of inner reality. Change the projector, change the projection. integrate your shadow, and you stop attracting its negative manifestations. Transform your complexes, and you stop magnetizing their patterns. Individuate toward yourself, and you start attracting your authentic path. This isn't quick or easy. It's deep psychological work that transforms you at the root level. But once that transformation happens, the attraction changes are permanent. You don't have to maintain positive thoughts or high vibrations. Your transformed psyche naturally attracts differently. Start here. What pattern keeps appearing in your life? That's your unconscious attraction mechanism revealing itself. Don't judge it, study it. Understand what part of your psyche is creating this magnetism. Then begin the work of transformation, not fighting the pattern, but integrating what it's trying to show you. Every blessing you could ever want is available, but it's not about deserving or earning, it's about aligning. When your psychological frequency coheres, shadow integrated, complexes transformed, self-emerging, you become a living magnet for everything meant for your path. The unlimited blessings aren't out there waiting for you to be good enough. They're in here, waiting for you to be whole enough to receive them. If you're ready to train your mind to become a blessing magnet, subscribe to this channel where I decode Jung's most powerful techniques for psychological transformation. Watch the video on your screen now about shadow work, the foundation of transforming what you attract. Remember, you're already attracting exactly what your psyche is programmed for. The question is whether you'll remain unconscious of the program or consciously transform it.